Oh, God. Let's get into the news. Transgender people still face a sizable wage and employment gap in the United States. How companies can help. So this is from CNBC. This is like marketed to like companies to be like trans inclusive or some shit. But, you know, it references statistics that I talk about all the time on my show. So let's get into it. All right. Employees are often encouraged to bring their whole selves to work, yet for transgender people, expressing their true, authentic identities in the workplace can have devastating consequences: rejection, discrimination, harassment, and social isolation, just to name a few. Despite a growing public awareness of the challenges transgender individuals face, the group is still subjected to a significant wage and employment gap across all industries. According to a November 2021 report from McKinsey & Co., transgender adults are twice as likely as cisgender adults to be unemployed, and cisgender employees make about 32% more money each year than their transgender colleagues, even when the latter have similar or higher education levels. This is something that, again, I discuss all the time on my show. So, like, you know, again, when it comes to, like, Joe Biden's stupid-ass executive orders, right? I don't know, man. None of that matters compared to the Equality Act, for example, right? So, this report also found that more than half of transgender employees are not comfortable being out at work and feel pressured to suppress their gender identity because it doesn't conform with long-held norms regarding gender expression. So, basically, it's just like middle school. If you come out as trans at work, it's like having red hair in 6th grade, right? You're going to get picked on because people in this country are garbage and they act like children on a daily basis. So people feel bullied all the time. People feel like they're under attack all the time because they are. If you go to an office, right, chances are people are going to mock you and harass you behind your back at the very least. If you work in the food industry, you know, again, chances are if you're working with 6 employees, you know, in the back room making some Chick-fil-A burgers, chances are people are going to mock you or harass you if you come out as transgender, because Americans are children. This is like literally, it's middle school, elementary school even, behavior. But it's a significant cause in transgender people being more likely to be unemployed because no one wants to work with a freak. Such barriers can damage transgender individuals' job satisfaction, career growth, retention rates, lifetime earnings, and emotional well-being. There's been a ton of progress in prioritizing corporate diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts over the last several decades, but that hasn't necessarily translated into actual improvements for the transgender experience in the U.S. I don't care about McKinsey. Identifies as a biracial, queer, transgender person working in corporate America, and all too frequently they add that transgender experience doesn't even register on employers' radars when they're working on LGBTQ+ inclusivity initiatives. What's driving the wage gap? Transgender people are about 2.4 times more likely to work in the food or retail industries. The McKinsey report found, in which the average annual wage hovers between $25,000 and $30,000. Now again, trans people are typically more likely to be poor or impoverished, and poor or impoverished people are more likely to work in the food and retail industries. So that's what that is. Safety, ranked as the most important factor in transgender people's decision to pursue a job or not, trailed by not seeing others who looked like them in the workplace and finding support for trans or gender non-conforming people. As a result, transgender job seekers might feel like they have limited options when deciding which industries to pursue and gravitate to sectors where there are more transgender employees, the report noted. Throughout the hiring process, too, transgender candidates continue to encounter anti-transgender discrimination and bias, the McKinsey report notes, further limiting their employment options. Again, in most states, it's perfectly legal to discriminate against someone because they're gay or trans. And I mean, again, even if in some states where it is illegal, they can just say, oh, you're just not a right fit for us. How are you going to prove that it's because they're trans? I mean, unless they call you, oh, get the fuck out of here, tranny. I mean, you pretty much have no legal case. So in states where, again, it is illegal to discriminate against someone for their race, their gender, whatever, they still do it. It's just they do it in a slightly different way, but the net result's almost identical. A disproportionate number of transgender people work in the service sector because a lot of us face employment discrimination and don't get hired into traditional office or white-collar jobs. Rodrigo Hang Lehtinen, the executive director of the National Center for Transgender Equality, says that pushes us into jobs as servers, bartenders, or baristas that don't get paid as much, have shorter hours, and overall don't have the security or stability of a white-collar office job might offer. The same social norms that often lock transgender people out of higher paying opportunities can also hurt their long-term career prospects. As Hang Lehtinen points out, when you don't have those points of commonalities with the people you work with, especially with your boss, you're way less likely to have that kind of access to prove yourself and consequently get promoted. So, this part I care less about. But the important part here to understand is, again, if you look at all different kinds of minority groups, Black transgender women are the most heavily discriminated against in our society because they are at the intersection of racism, transphobia, sexism, etc. So transgender people are heavily discriminated in general in our society. Black people, heavily discriminated in general in our society. So when you're black and when you're trans, basically there's nowhere in the world where you can work without probably ending up dead somewhere within 6 to 12 months, because that's just how our world works. Because again, we live in a country of middle schoolers, of elementary school children that literally bully people because of their gender. It's insane. It's insane. But that's the world we live in. Of people that never matured past the age of 6. And yet, they're like 60. They're like 43 and they work in public areas. And they never matured after the age of 6. They just never did. Like, I literally cannot imagine bullying someone for their gender or their race. It just is bizarre to me. It's strange. Especially if they're your coworker. Like, you have to go to work with them every day. So it's strange. It's bizarre. And again, this is just the world we live in. I don't know what to tell you. But the world that we live in, not good. It's actually really bad. So I don't know what to tell you.